Today we're going to look at the autofocus plunger assembly on the Helix, but it also applies to the Mini 18, Mini 24, and Legend 24 EXT. Let's take a closer look at the autofocus assembly. I'm going to lower the table down to a deeper position so we can get around the plunger assembly better. Focus, hold the down arrow. At this time, I'm going to power off the unit. By powering off the unit, that allows me to manually move the lens assembly and the X-axis carriage anywhere out on the table that we need it to be. So we're going to take a closer look at our plunger assembly, and to do that I'm going to remove the X-axis blue cover. If you have a first generation Legend series unit, this cover might be gray, but regardless, this is the entire X-assembly carriage, and we're going to remove this cover that exposes the linear encoder strip, the ribbon cable, and the autofocus sensing board. And so to do that, we're going to loosen the screw on the front. We're not going to take it out because this is a slip cover. So we're just going to loosen the screw on the front. There's a screw on the front right side, and then there's about 5 in the back. So we'll remove those now. So I have loosened the screws on the front left, and front right, and then I have loosened all of the screws on the back side of the cover. By loosening those screws, now I can lift up on this entire X-axis cover assembly and remove that out of the way. So the goal of this video is to explain a closer look at the plunger assembly and how it works. This plunger down here is flexible by a spring inside this housing here. Furthermore, this plunger has a spring mechanism further up in the middle, and as that spring is engaged or pushed, it moves up and pushes on this black block here. This block or plastic block has an Allen screw at the very top, and on the other side of it, it has a magnet. That magnet is used to activate the sensor on this little computer board. This little computer board here has a sensor, and this magnet is pushed up. This is how autofocus works, is that the magnet is pushed up, the sensor sees the magnet and tells the table to stop moving, that it's reached its topmost point, and then it is programmed electronically, automatically, to drop the table down the 2 inches. So exactly 2 inches away, it'll drop the table so that that is the correct autofocus distance. This is how autofocus works on your Mini 18, Mini 24, and Helix, first or second generation. Any of the Legend series, including the EXT. Now, if you have by chance pulled or stretched this assembly, some say you might need to replace this if you have pulled on the plunger here. And if this has been pulled and the spring is stretched too far, then you might need to replace this whole assembly. I'll unscrew this now so you can get a better look at how to do that. So for this exercise, you'll need a medium point Phillips screwdriver and a 5/64 Allen wrench standard. So the way this is going to work is we're going to use our 5/64 Allen wrench to loosen and take out the screw that's on the magnetic block on the plunger. And you might need to hold the bottom so that it doesn't twist out. And the bottom will twist or unscrew similar to a ballpoint pen, and we'll just take the bottom screw with the spring off. So the bottom will come out. And so since it is magnetic, you'll see that the Allen wrench is holding on to the block with the magnet and the screw. So here is our block with our Allen wrench and our screw and the magnet. And the bottom is what the plunger assembly will plug into. So outside of the machine or outside of the assembly, the way this works is the plunger assembly goes right into this block. It's a nylon or plastic style block. So this is the entire autofocus assembly. If this part ever here gets stretched, then you could order a replacement and they may just send you from tech support this whole piece. Now this also has a spring attached to it, so that spring, similar to a ballpoint pen, just fits over the assembly at the top. And then right over here is the cavity where the block will fit into. Now whenever you're replacing an autofocus assembly, you want to be sure that the magnet here is facing toward this sensor right over here. So whenever you're replacing an autofocus sensor or assembly, you want to be sure that when you put this back in, that goes up through the top, that this magnet on this block is facing closest to this sensor. There's a little soldered piece, chip, that's soldered to the board right there. And so you want to be sure that this magnet is facing that way. And so as this comes up from the bottom, you can see that that assembly is pushing up and down, spring loaded, and we can simply put the block back on top. And once we have that in there, then we can take our wrench, put that on the screw, and then start to tighten that down. And we can twist it in from the bottom as I'm spinning the base of the assembly to the top. So we take our wrench, put that in from the top, and we can spin either the screw or the base, and that'll start to tighten up eventually. It's kind of a long screw, but we want to tighten that up so that there's no movement or play. Now you'll have to be careful though that you don't strip that out too far, or it might just kind of keep spinning. But if it's not stripped, then it will snug up very good and tight. And then once you have that put together, you want to be sure that as you push up from the bottom, that is moving freely. You never want to see this get stuck at the top. If you ever have a plunger assembly that's gotten dirty and it gets stuck at the top where there's no free movement here, then that's going to cause the table to stick in the up position, or maybe just start to release the table where it never stops. So in an autofocus troubleshooting event, you want to be sure that your plunger assembly is moving cleanly up and down. So to be successful, you want to always be sure that your plunger assembly here is clean. You can use Windex, it's metal, so you can use Windex or alcohol. Be sure that assembly inside that in the inside is clean and that that's freely moving up and down. So with our 5/64 Allen wrench, we tighten that screw back up, making sure that's free. And then we'll put our cover back on. So by putting our cover back on, we're going to be sure that it's fit over both of our slip cover screws here on each side, and we'll tighten it up on the back and the sides and we'll be good to go. So that's how the autofocus plunger works. So to recap, again, if you ever get an autofocus plunger assembly stuck where it is jammed up against the table, then you're going to reach underneath the base of the table and pull on that black belt. With the machine powered off, you can pull on that belt and that helps lower the table down to remove any obstruction. Then power the machine back on and you'll be good to turn the machine back on, make sure that it initializes correctly in the back, and you'll be good to go.